Stanley Tucci has just embodied and become my great-grandfather. It's a special connection. He's done a beautiful job bringing this story to life. Do I go back or do I stay in the new country?
Or I just think it's going to be unlike anything people have heard before. It's great.
This show centers around my grandfather, my nonno Franco, who would go on to win the Nobel Prize.
Who's the happiest man in the world tonight? Franco Modigliani.
But when he was a 19-year-old kid in 1938 and Mussolini passed the racial laws against Jews like him, he didn't know what to do. He was so lucky that he had fallen in love with this girl from Bologna. And they made it onto the last boat out of mainland Europe before the war broke out. And I grew up with that fairy tale escape. But there's a darker side to the fairy tale. When my grandfather fled the country, he left behind his older brother, and he lost touch with him through the war and through the Nazi occupation of Rome, until he got this letter that said, "We survived, and here's how." And it detailed having to go underground and all these close calls and near misses. So we tell this story in audio form through the investigative reporting that we did on the ground in Italy with all kinds of interviews with my family members and even with the Prime Minister of Italy. And we cut that together with letters and diaries and first-person accounts of family members who were on the ground. We mixed together the voices of my grandparents as I remember them and some archival interviews with my great-grandfather, who turns out to be Stanley Tucci.
It was our lives that were on the line, our lives. Hai capito?
Through this series, we're telling the story of the family who made it out and the family who was left behind. We're getting at the heart of that question: when fascism comes, when authoritarianism comes to your country, how do you know when to flee, and what happens if you can't? Okay, so this is box number 1.
It's signed Benito Mussolini.
It says vostro.
Yours.
This is a letter from Benito Mussolini.
Yep.